The Pentagon says it's working on a grand military parade in Washington following a request by the president. A Pentagon spokesman says plans for an event in November are already in the works. The parade would coincide with the 100th anniversary of the end of World War I.
President Trump first mentioned the idea last year after watching France's Bastille Day celebrations in Paris. He told reporters the parade was one of the greatest he had ever seen. The nation's last military parade in Washington was 27 years ago when troops marched through the Capitol to celebrate the U.S. victory in the 1991 Gulf War. Earlier, we asked CBS News senior global affairs contributor and president of the Eurasia Group, Bremmer, about what this type of message would send to the rest of the world.
First of all, Trump likes the spectacle. That's pretty clear. And while the economy is doing quite well right now, it's also clear to most around the Trump administration that the ability to actually really provide economically for Trump's base is pretty limited. Right? I mean, they're not going to be doing all that much better in the next 4 or 8 years, given the lack of inclusive growth that's happening. You can give them $1,000, sort of in a tax bonus. You saw the $1.50 a week, Paul Ryan comment and the rest. But the reality is that a lot of what Trump is giving them is his refusal to be politically correct, is his going after the NFL players for taking a knee, is his border wall, I'm going to look out for people like you, and I'm going to look out for your security and your stability. And, this is a good example of that. It's bread and circuses, right? I mean, he wants to have rallies and he wants to have a military parade. And, in times where people don't feel good, having a nationalist leader that rallies around the flag in a way that really divides, that is us versus them, and you're a part of us, is a good feeling. And so I think that politically what Trump is doing is actually quite smart. It's kind of like the memo, right? I mean, sort of you release the memo and then you delegitimize the FBI. And if you know the investigation is a problem for you, that the best way to go is to have your base just say this entire process is not worthy of us in our country. It's fake, it's false, and I think it's all part of the same message. And so far, I mean, look, Trump won.
I mean, I don't think there's anybody who's, an American would not want to see our sailors, Marines, soldiers, airmen, marching down the street and us cheering for them. And it's pretty cool to see all that hardware. The fanboy in me would totally dig that. The question is, if you're a Republican and it's going to cost X amount of millions of dollars, where are you going to get that money?
I know. I mean, the last time I think it was like $8 million, and that was quite a number of years ago.
I mean, look, it's a lot cheaper than going to Mar-a-Lago every weekend. I mean, like, we are a wealthy country. I think you can find it if you need to.
So here's a question, and I know we're sort of going long, but I thought, a lot of people are going to ask, why not? Why not show off our hardware? They do it in other countries. Vlad, you just said Bastille Day. They do it the best they've ever. Yeah, why not?
They do it for the Queen's birthday.
The French can do it. I mean,
but some people are going to ask that question.
If the North Koreans can do it, why can't we have synchronized applause?
That's an interesting point. The fact that generally, in the case of Europe, they've done it for the Queen's birthday. The Brits have done it. The English.
We don't even have a queen.
No, but it's not about synchronized applause or we don't have a queen. I understand that, but it is sort of a show of greatness. And I'm sure there are a lot of people, Trump supporters, but probably not Trump supporters, who are going to say, what's the big deal? We do have the money.
Yeah, I think that the opposition, because the country is so divided right now, the easiest thing for those that hate Trump to do is to simply point out how anti-patriotic Trump is personally. Like, this would be a much easier thing to organize and get behind if Trump were McCain, right? I mean, a war hero who actually had served his country, had been in a camp, was tortured, came back. What a sterling record. Whether you like that display or not, you can say he did it. But, deferring the draft and bone spurs and all the rest it's harder to get behind that. And so I think a lot of people will say this is awesome, and a lot of other people will say how dare you, and it'll become a big kerfuffle that will occupy the media for a week. Trump will be able to go after the mainstream media, which is less popular than he is, and it plays again to the narrative. He's doing the same thing.